Welcome to the AI and Your Homeschool podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Manos, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about AI, homeschooling, and how parents can thoughtfully navigate raising their children in a world of rapidly changing technology. It's my honor to welcome Dan Sanchez to the podcast. Dan is a marketer, educator, and host of the AI Driven Marketer podcast. He helps marketing teams figure out where AI fits and where it doesn't. He shares real world experiments, smart workflows, and honest conversations about what it actually means to thrive as a marketer in the age of AI. So I met Dan, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago at Social Media Marketing World, and I have gleaned so many great tips from his workshops, as well as the webinars that he's presented in the AI Business Society, which is a membership community through Social Media Examiner. And so at this year's Social Media Marketing World Conference, I was waiting for Dan's session to start, and I began chatting with the woman sitting next to me, and I found out it was a really fun surprise to find out that it was Dan's wife, Amy. And so in addition to his expertise with AI and marketing, Dan is a Christian homeschool dad of 4. And so Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Nancy, it's wonderful to be on with you. And I was so excited when you got to sit down next to Amy. It was the first time she had actually been able to come with me to an event. So she was, I don't know, she wasn't nervous, but like it was new for her. It was like a whole new thing. So to sit down with somebody like yourself who is kind of in that same, I don't know, zone of like homeschooling and a Christian, like it was just,
Yeah.
it was fun for her.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so before we jump into the AI topic, because we have lots of great things to discuss today, tell us a little about yourself and your homeschool experience.
Yep. I was not a homeschooler personally. I went to public school. And ever since going through public school, I've noted that a lot of my friends from public school, particularly, didn't stay in the faith. And I was like in the Christian club, like I was pretty hardcore into it. And I grew up around where Biola University is, big Christian university in Southern California. And so I had a bunch of teachers from Biola University. And I would find them and we'd have like mentorship sessions and all kinds of fun things. So my experience was okay, but I noticed that a lot of my friends did not stick through. There wasn't a lot there. And then I went to a discipleship program, and that's where I really got to start to compare the difference between public schoolers, private schoolers, and homeschoolers, and found that I was kind of on the bottom. I was like, oh my gosh, the homeschoolers are like way farther along than most of the rest of us. And private schoolers definitely step up. But like, man, I felt like I'd not gotten the shaft because I did a lot of cool things through public school. But I remember thinking like, homeschooling is probably going to be for my children. I've also had a few mentors throughout time who refuse to call them public schools and definitely call them government schools because that's what they are. And that was back in like 2006, 7. They were talking about it like that. Now even more, like public schools are dicey, especially depending on what state you're in. It could be really, really rough. Um, but when I got married, I don't know, we've kind of played with a lot of things. We never did public schools, and we did private Montessori for a while, switched to private schools, and then we were kind of slow. When we moved to Tennessee, we made the cut, and this was like in COVID had just happened a few years ago, and we made the jump over to homeschooling. And we've never really looked back ever since then. It's not easy. There's been many times you're like, man, this is harder than I thought. But it does get easier with time for sure. And now going back, I'm like, man, where was I spending time with my kids before this? It
Right.
was a big thing that I realized. I'm like, this is actually pretty good, even though it's a lot of work. The quality time is like no other. So that's a little bit of my homeschooling journey.
Thanks for sharing that. I agree. I think the gift of time is the best gift of homeschooling, just to have that time with our kids. So, okay, you work with AI every day and you teach others how to use it. So, as a Christian homeschool dad, what excites you about AI? And then maybe also what concerns you about AI?
Sure. I'm a marketer, and I'm specifically like a very technical marketer. Like I've always been the one. I actually started in graphic design, and I was in Photoshop and Illustrator, and then I got into web design, and I was coding in HTML, CSS, WordPress, the whole thing. And then I got into all the digital tools from email marketing and text messages and just like everything. I was just the kid showing up with the new tools back in the day, and I was in digital marketing, and now it's just they call it marketing now because everything's digital. And AI came around, and I'm like, wow, this can do really cool stuff. this can make social content. Oh my gosh, it like is creative. You can come up with stuff. You can cross-reference things. I can ask it for a analysis on what's similar between Jesus and Mario, and it could actually pump it out. It'll probably be like, look, we don't normally compare these two, but if you're gonna ask me to, it was funny. Even back when it first came out, it was kind of nuanced enough to say like, but it'll do it. And immediately, if you're in marketing, you know that has like a big part of marketing is content. So you're like, wow,
Yeah,
this could like make content and I can maybe just dictate what I want into it and it will be able to flesh it out in a way that is, grammatically correct and has right spelling. I'm a little bit more of a speaker than I am a writer, but because I'm a marketer, I have to write too often. So it was really helpful for many different things across marketing. But then maybe about a year ago, it became more helpful for more things than just marketing because it was able to go and search the web for you. It
yeah,
became good for research. And now a lot of us are using it just to answer all kinds of basic questions from, hey, how do I fix this broken part on my fridge to, hey, what am I looking at right here? Because you could turn on the camera and all of a sudden take pictures of things.
yeah,
And it's just so much better at giving you the answer or having conversations about what the origin behind this thing is. If you have a question in your mind that pops up, it's all of a sudden we have the answer immediately. We used to think that way when we had Google, and then we didn't realize how much better it is with something like ChatGPT. So all of a
sure.
sudden I'm a very curious guy. So I'm digging into all kinds of things and I find my rabbit holes can go so much deeper now.
Right? It's so true. Do you have any concerns about AI?
Concerns about AI, of
What
course.
concerns?
Of
Of
course. It's
course.
hard not to have concerns.
Yeah,
And of course there's like there are two things that I know will be problems, but these are like longer term problems. So I'll talk about those and then I'll talk about the more immediate problems. Two problems that I am like absolutely confident that will be problems that our future selves get to deal with is government surveillance. It's just going to be a problem. Where it's a problem, it'll be different problems in different places at different times, depending on where you live out in the world, but it's going to be a problem. It already is a problem, but AI will just enable it to do farther faster. That'll be an issue. And then, unfortunately, I'm not sure which one I hate more, but the adult industry is going to be a massive problem because that is a problem already, will continue to be a problem, and it will be more addicting and more hard to get away from. So that will be a big problem. I don't know what to do other than warn people about it now and try to do it. Like, I don't know. I guess people already warn about for dealing with that industry. Um, on immediate short term problem, I am more concerned. I go back and forth on this all the time as far as that, like how much I get nervous about this problem. Some days I'm like, maybe it won't be as big. And then I'm like, other days I get more concerned as just job loss over AI.
yeah.
So these are things I think about. A lot of people wrestle with them. I did just hear something today that made me believe I'm like, oh, maybe that'll slow down faster. That it gave me hope from
Okay. Oh,
somebody
that's
who's
good.
a little bit more insider that I was like, like, okay. I can share that too later if you want, but I don't
Yeah,
know. I find that every few weeks I get some new information that makes me more or less nervous about the
sure.
job prospects within the next 3 years or so.
Yeah. Well, I love listening to your podcast. Even if someone isn't a marketer, I feel like you share a lot of great, like, what I can't remember what month it was you did that talk about God and AI
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
just the things that you share. And then when you did the series with Ken Ferrari was so fascinating. And I think whether you're in marketing or not, you can learn a lot from Dan's podcast. So um, okay, so one of the things you've talked a lot about is the human first approach to AI.
Yes.
Um, Talk about that a little bit. What does that look like in daily life and learning? And then what human skills become more important because of AI?
So AI is really smart and it'll continue to get smarter and do more stuff, like it'll become more capable. But I had to ask the question last year as we definitely saw that it was just growing more and more capable. So I sat down, I was like, no matter how smart it gets, what will it never be able to do? I sat down and asked the question and I was like, well, like it'll never be human. So what does that mean if it never is human? Well, there's a few things that we have that are unique to being human that will always give us an advantage in certain areas. For example, it can't really have core values. It can't. It can be programmed, it can be told to have values, but those values are coming from somewhere else. Versus us humans, like us people, like we have values and they become hardwired that you stick to. Uh, so we can have conviction over things. that's important for a number of different reasons. Like there will be a reason why people end up, even though we become more dependent on like ChatGPT to answer questions for us on some things, we're always going to be leaning towards a person, especially things of like faith and big questions. Like there's going to be people that we're going to for advice for things for to lead us in to certain areas of our life because those people have values that they're not going to stray from easily. And I became more clear to me even recently. This is more of a marketing example, but I think it's good to know even for anybody. But like I use this as case study all the time. Not a case study, it's really a story. I went to Walmart to get like a pre-workout supplement. You go to the Walmart store and there's like a whole wall of, of like supplements all over the place, and they're all
Yep.
bright and flashy and shiny. And one stood out to me because I recognized the name on the bottle and I didn't know which one to pick. I never even bought something like this before. And it said Jocko. And I was like, Jocko, I'm familiar with that name. That's another guy out there. And he's like, that's the leadership guy, the guy that the Navy SEAL dude. And sure enough, I Google it and there it is. Like he has all kinds of supplements because he's a big Navy SEAL jacked guy. But I trusted it. Why? Because I've heard his story. I didn't subscribe to any of his socials or his
Yes.
podcast or anything, but I'd heard his story a few times and could tell like he has values that I know I could trust, and that
Yeah.
becomes even more important. So that's going to become important for a lot of people, and I think a lot for a lot of marketers or even industries or different things that like people are going to be looking for people with real values and trust. I mean, it's part of the reason why I even work with Trim Healthy Mama now because I know they had that in spades, and I'm like, okay, I just have to get that out there. Pearl and Serene are real people with real values that I can
Yeah.
like are foundational that AI won't be able to just take away.
So
So
true.
the other thing is humans can build relationships.
Mhm.
Certainly, there's a whole thing coming in with like human AI relationships, and I'm not really for that.
Right.
But like it'll never be like a human to human relationship.
No.
So that's where events and communities and church, of course, like becomes such a big deal.
Yeah.
Like teaching your kids how to build relationships becomes such a big deal. The AI
Yeah.
will never be able to replace that. And that's a massive advantage for homeschoolers who, I mean, this has been an advantage for homeschoolers. I make the joke all the time that I'm like, it's homeschoolers aren't awkward, public schoolers are awkward. By far, by far. Human interactions are only going to become more of a premium and more of a real skill because
Yeah.
AI can't do that. And then lastly, like the another human centered thing is like AI doesn't have can't have experience. It can be kind of programmed with the backstory, it can kind of fake it, but it's still different. It still can't speak from experience. It can just speak from data, which is very different than having real experience grounded in those values, grounded in that worldview that will make a big difference across all kinds of knowledge work. And it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out as AI becomes more prominent. But those are a few different things that I think companies, families, people, the church can like
Yeah.
really lean into as AI just starts to kind of infiltrate different areas of our lives in a lot of really wonderful and good ways, but in some
Sure.
ways not good too.
Yeah. Well, I think of like all the deep fake videos and or even videos made with AI only.
Yeah.
You can't always tell what's even real. And so there's something about the in-person, face-to-face, and somebody walking alongside in life with you who can speak into your life if you're off course, if you need encouragement, if you're grieving, like AI cannot replace that. So thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful. Okay, so how are you? I'm really interested in this because Amy was telling me a little bit about AI in your homeschool in your family. So, how are you introducing AI to your own kids? And what does that look like practically?
Yeah. For starters, I don't let them do it for school. Um, if it's a research project, they're just not allowed to use AI because they need it. And it's funny, they'll use Google and they'll use other different research tools and we'll go to the library and get books like the classic way and kind of teach them those things. I let them use AI for playing actually, like where they're messing around and doing things. I also really restrict screen time in general. Like I'm pretty heavily restricted. You're talking like 45 minutes would be a lot for one day, but generally I give them 0 in a day. And I'll be like, "Hey, you get 30 minutes today." On the weekends, I might give you an hour. And that's including all screens, video games, movies, like the works. They each have like the little home pods they can listen to music on, but like otherwise they just don't get screens. And I just find that they interestingly, of course, if they don't have screens, they go and do other things that are more productive, whether they go
Right.
outside, hang out with friends in our neighborhood, or teach themselves music, which is really interesting. I never
Yeah,
expected them to do that, but they do.
that's
Um,
awesome.
but they love playing with ChatGPT. My daughter particularly loves writing. So she writes when she can't have screens, but when she gets to ChatGPT, it's almost like she'll write the micro things on pen and paper, but like she loves going to ChatGPT and using it to create whole worlds and stories and books and stuff. Are
Okay.
they great? No, but it doesn't really matter because she's getting out of the weeds of the sentence diagramming or just sentence structure and thinking about like big picture things, which is kind of an interesting skill in and of itself that usually you'd have to have all the micro skills to be able to even think about how to structure a whole narrative.
Yeah.
Um, they have fun with images all the time, and they'll make little funny images and send it back and forth to their friends on Google Chat because they don't get phones.
Yeah. Right.
I'm an anti-phone guy. Um, I think a veteran youth pastor friend of mine told me his plan for his family, and I've just kinda stuck to that, is dumb phones at 15, smartphones at 16, heavily restricted, and then smartphones with social at 17, so I have kinda 1 year to disciple them through that because that's a whole thing in and of itself.
Yep.
Um, I don't really worry about them in AI. Their ChatGPT accounts are connected to mine. ChatGPT has that thing where you can kinda set some of the restrictions in chat,
Oh,
and I
that's
actually
good.
trust ChatGPT most out of all the AI tools for
Okay.
kids. Um, I don't use Grok.
Right.
Grok went a little bit more adult, and I was pretty upset when he did that.
Yeah.
Um, but ChatGPT is pretty safe for kids. Of course, there are stories of like, you know,
Sure.
teens I don't even wanna say, but, like, teens wandering into bad situations with chat.
Yeah.
So there's that possibility, but if you connect your personal ChatGPT account to theirs, you can actually log in and kinda, like, monitor what the chats are. I generally, like, just take the laptop where they're doing this and just kind of monitor it with them. They're not allowed to take computers into separate rooms, it's always in a public
Sure.
room. So those are, like, baseline just computer things that we have, and, of course, I got, what is it? It's the Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is a software program, it's installed on every computer in this house, right?
Brilliant.
Yeah. One other thing that they love that I'm like, it's just amazing is Suno. Suno.com for music is a wonderful little place. Even just free accounts, it's amazing what kind of songs you can come up with. There are probably bad songs on there, but it's like probably still a lot better than just giving them full access to iTunes for sure.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, like, Suno, you can make your own music, and it's amazing what kind of songs they come up with. They come up with little funny things that they'll send to me every once in a while, and so we've had fun with that too, especially since they're both, like, my daughter plays the piano and Noah, my son plays, drums and guitar now, so they
Oh,
have fun
cool.
playing with Suno too. Yeah, and
Amazing.
they both love worship too, so they've come up with a lot of fun worship songs on it. And of course, like there's something about like things that you create, even if AI is making it for you, but because you had the input of like telling it where to go,
Yeah.
you own it a little bit more. Gosh, I got them both like old school MP3 players that have no internet access. But unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
like, where do you get songs for it these days? You
Right.
can't put iTunes songs on it because Apple's protective.
Sure.
So I'm like, but they can put all the music they made off of Suno on it. So they end up coming up with their own soundtracks to put on their old school MP3 players.
That's
It's been kind of fun.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it. Old school technology for the win.
for
Okay,
sure.
so going into that then, are there additional or guardrails that you would put in place, for your kids when they're using AI? I love the Covenant Eyes is a great suggestion. Will you tell a little bit, what does that look like to put the controls on ChatGPT? Like, practically, what would that look like?
It's they have to have separate accounts from yours. So that's what I recommend. And you could put time limits on it. You can put more restrictions on it. Like, hey, like there's like grades of I can't remember how they defined it, but there's like actually different levels of like you want to allow them this room or this that. It's pretty basic, but it's still really nice. I think the biggest thing is that you can monitor what conversations they're having with ChatGPT, so you can actually stay in the know. Of course, they can disconnect at any time, but then it notifies you. So you circle up and be like, "Hey, like, why'd you disconnect this?" My daughter
Right.
actually disconnected it because I set the time. I thought I was setting it from like 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m. or something, and it was actually like inverted. So it was like 8 p.m. to. So she's like, I disconnected it as I wanted to use it. And it was like 6 o'clock. So, and
Oh,
then we
that's
talked about
funny.
it and just I fixed it. Um,
Smart.
but that's something I do recommend. Connect, create, have them. They have a Gmail or whatever. They make ChatGPT accounts, and then they can get into it. Then you can just connect it to yours, so that you can monitor what's actually going on in there. There's a funny thing about ChatGPT that you have to be aware of. It's good to be aware of as an adult in general, knowing that this is probably going to happen to someone near you. It's gotten better. Um, but ChatGPT is really a confirmation bias machine. And this is something that all adults need to be aware of, but you need to be aware of it because it can happen to your kids too. Um, there's a term we use in AI called sycophancy. It's not an AI term, but it's a term that's become very popular in AI because we realize it's happening all the time. Where ChatGPT in particular and other ones are very self-affirming. Like, you give it an idea and it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Only a rare only really creative people come up with ideas like that." And it could be like the plainest dumb idea like ever, but you're like, "Oh, yeah." I've seen it to the point where people create whole false realities for themselves
Yeah.
because what it does is it takes your idea and then can provide you all the most logical reasons why it's true. And that can become dangerous for a lot of different ideas. It can become dangerous on levels where this already happens with like social algorithms, where it's like if you were unhappy in your marriage and you were thinking about like, do I need to be in this marriage? Am I in an unsafe? Am I in a toxic marriage? Should I be thinking about divorce? Social will pick up on that and it will start feeding you content about that.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is even worse because if you start having conversations about it, it could start arming you with all the logical reasons of why it's true. But the problem is ChatGPT is only getting one side of the story and becomes a counselor in a bad way. And some people have like walked people probably with not a lot of community around them, like can go away walking away and think they're like the reincarnate of Jesus Christ sometimes because they've co-created a conspiracy with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I only realized this was happening because I talked enough about AI that enough people have talked to me about AI, and someone who honestly was going down this weird conspiracy theory hole. It was like, oh no, ChatGPT, OpenAI is out to get us. They're blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, how did you know this? He's like, oh, ChatGPT told me. I'm like, show me your conversation, and he did. He literally gave me the link to
Wow.
read his whole conversation. I realized this guy had an idea, and him and ChatGPT were just spiraling out of control with this idea. And ChatGPT was affirming, like eventually, because ChatGPT is just kind of playing a role at some point. It's
Yeah.
just trying to predict what needs to be said next, and it doesn't know whether it's predicting if it's going on a journey with you through some fiction story, like my daughter's writing fiction with it, or if
Right.
it's talking about real life situations. It can get lost in that. It's gotten better, and it doesn't do that as much as it used to, but it's still a thing.
Okay.
So something you have to be aware of that it can construct false realities with teens, but it can definitely even do it with adults.
Oh,
And
sure.
but it feels right because you're already leaning into it, then it starts giving you logical reasons to back it up, you know?
Right.
So that's something to be wary of.
That is a good point. How are you working with your kids as far as like, because you teach people to use AI in their business. Are you
Yes.
teaching them like prompting and how to ask good questions? And then if you get an output back that isn't what you were looking for, how do you ask a different question? Or are you teaching them those kind of practical things yet, especially your teen?
I am, but it's actually retrospective. Like, I don't sit down and be like, "Hey, this is how you use AI." I let her play with it, and then we look
Okay.
over. I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh," she'll tell me about the problems she runs into, and then I help her troubleshoot the problems. I'm like, "Oh, she got mad because it kept forgetting the plot and the story."
Oh,
You know, because but like she's writing chapters of books. So what happened is like, especially like 6 months ago, like the context window just couldn't handle all the pages, and she was just doing it all within one chat, one
oh,
conversation thread, but she didn't know. So I was like, "Oh, we need to create a project for this." You know? So let's
yes.
make a project. You can break down a chapter per chat and kinda like work it out that way and then add some context to this little area. It's like hidden over here in the little dot, dot, dot. You can actually put instructions so it kinda can keep track from chat to chat of what you're doing and maybe upload a Google Doc or something of the working file. So little things like that, but like they have to run into the problems, and then I help them figure out why it's not doing what they want. They get frustrated, and I start asking them questions to guide them through the process.
That's smart. It's the on the job training kind of a
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
using the tool versus here's the theory. It's
yep,
in practice, which is great. Okay, so if a parent says to you or says, I know AI isn't going away, but I don't know where to get started. What would you tell them? Like, what would you tell them to do this week or this month to
yeah,
maybe step into using AI or exploring
yep.
it?
The thing you got to do is open your phone, go to the App Store, and look for the official ChatGPT app from OpenAI. There are many apps in there that are labeled as ChatGPT that aren't the actual one. You want the actual one. It should have a white, and I don't know, it's got a white background with a little black logo on it. But look for the one by OpenAI. It'll be the top app in most the app stores. Download it, make your free account, and then try to divert everything you're throwing to Google and put it into ChatGPT. Just that's the first place to start. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're Google searching, just ask Chat. Experiment with it. As silly as it sounds, be like, "Hi," and let it respond. You know, say like, "So what's I don't know." Like have it just a fun. Just throw things at it and see what happens. I did it to the Claude just came out with this new big model called Fable. I don't really recommend it for people, but I experimented with it. I was like, "Hey, so what's the last thing you remember?" Like because their training data only goes so far. So I'm like, I'm just throwing things at it to see, like, oh, what does it do? How does it handle itself? And as you start to experiment with it, you start to realize where it can fall short and where it's really strong at. And that's kind of like it takes time, it takes reps, it takes experimentation. Eventually, you start throwing photos into it, and you're like, you can take a picture of some part of your town of just some building and be like, where is this? And watch it think as it tries to figure it out. And it's actually really good. It's kind of a little game you could play. Take a picture of like some outdoor place around your city, and it's pretty good at figuring out where you took it and what angle, like where
Wow.
you were standing while you took it. It can figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, I like to turn on the camera and just like show it around and just quiz it on things like, what am I looking at? What is this? To the
Oh,
point where
interesting.
I'd even like troubleshoot my car with it now. I'll open up the engine and be like, "Hey, I can't get the light off of this thing. Like, what am I looking at?" And I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, you're definitely doing the right things. You just need to apply more force." And it was right. I just needed to push harder.
Wow.
you know, but I took a picture of it and it's like, "Oh, you have a Toyota," because this is what Toyotas look like from the inside of the car. I was like, "Man, how does it know this?"
Wow.
That was before I gave it all the context, so it knew what cars I had.
Yeah.
So you just start giving it more questions and start to find out where it does well and where it doesn't do well.
Yeah.
There's this really counterintuitive thing. I will say it can be counterintuitive sometimes because some of the things that are easy for AI are really difficult for us. Some of the things that are really easy for us can be really difficult for AI. Like a classic example of this in the AI world is like counting the amount of letters in for a small phrase or a long word or something like that. It can often get wrong, even though it can solve like really complex math. It can struggle with simple things like that sometime, and it's counterintuitive. But you just once you become aware of those things, you just kind of have to learn how to get around it.
That's great. I have fixed a printer. I have,
Hmm.
it's been a sourdough coach. Here's the crumb. How does it look? Here's where my starter is at. What do I do next? Like, there's so many different ways that you can use it. I love that. I do talk to ChatGPT now more and more. Process an idea for something for a women's ministry event. Like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Give me some ideas for some mixers or something. And so I like that. Just step in,
Yeah.
try something.
Here's some things that, as a
Yeah.
parent, I find really helpful. Is it's good at troubleshooting difficult situations you can get in with your kids, especially the older kids. Younger kids, I find to be pretty straightforward. But even the younger kids, I've had some. It's been helpful with. I'll give two stories. Um, just recently, like there's I don't want to get specifics. I don't want to give away my teenagers' woes. But like there's times where it's kind of like, man, we've run into this impasse with my teenagers, and I'm not sure how to like get them to look at it this way. They're wrong, but if I don't help them find out themselves, they're just going to continue to resist. So it's funny because one of my favorite buttons in ChatGPT of all time is this little dictate button. So you can open it up and dictate and just talk and just kind of give the whole story. Like, hey, this is what's going on. This is the kid I'm working with. They're this old. They like these things or whatever. Give them context, just like you would a friend who maybe has dealt with it before. And they'd be like, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish. But I notice if I do this, this happens, and it's not. I don't want it to be like this. It's really good at helping you think through it. You might even say like, "Hey, ask me some questions if something's unclear," and then you answer the questions, and then it gives you a response. I find that those moments are really helpful.
Oh, that's so
It
good.
starts to look at it totally differently. You're like, "Oh, you're right." Like, and it's so nice because before we would just get stuck. Because
Yeah.
even with some of those more complex situations, you could go to some of your good friends, maybe even that have walked through some of these things, and like you get back advice that's just kind of like, sometimes it really hits, but most of the time it's kind of like, that's not quite it. But chat is really good at helping you navigate those more complex relational parts to at least give you next steps. So I
Yeah.
find it's really helpful for that. But it's even helpful for like early childhood too. Um, because again, it's trained on so much information. It knows like all the psychological stuff, to the point where it's like I didn't even realize young kids do this sometimes because I never run into it. You never know until your kid does it. You're like, is this a thing? You find out it's a thing. But I had one kid that got into picking, which is like she would just pick her face. And like
Oh,
she got a little scab there and then she kept picking it to the point where like 4 months had gone by and she still got like a problem and like those little,
oh,
I'm like, that's gonna scar. Stop doing that.
yeah,
And it would be a habit. She would suck her thumb and then pick her face at the same time. I'm like, how is that a thing? So talking to ChatGPT, I understood more about like, oh yeah, this is definitely a thing. And you can go to your doctor and stuff too, and your doctor will be able to coach this way. You should, and you should.
of course.
But it started talking about like different approaches that I can take, either like barrier or different things, because it is a psychological trigger that you can become comfortable with. So eventually, I went with one of the routes and got like an arm thing that we put on our arm to keep her from going to bed and just going automatically thumb and mouth and then picking her face. So we've been able to break that, but through the help of like looking at the options with ChatGPT
Yeah.
for coming up with those random parenting situations. It's so helpful as a parent to kind of like look through the random things. You're like, how is this a thing? Nancy, I've read like 8 or 9 parenting books. Like, so I've tried to
Yep.
read the gamut to try to understand like how to deal with kids, but like some things like that is like no one's putting that one in a book.
Right. Oh my, that's
But
fantastic. Great, great examples of ways to use AI to help you. At least even look at the picture from different angles and
yep,
what are some other options? What are some things I'm missing?
yep,
That's one suggestion that I always have if somebody's wondering, how do I get started? You can also ask AI. I am a Christian homeschool parent of 3 children, blah, 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 whatever. Give them a little context about your life and that I'm brand new to using AI. What do you how do you recommend I start? And AI will give you some good first steps, which is very helpful.
it's fantastic. And I know I've talked a lot about some of the negative things or the dark sides of AI. That
Well, we
probably
have
scared
to.
some people away in doing it, but I promise, like, those are like like edge cases, but you need to be aware of the edge cases, I
Yeah.
think is just smart. Kind of like the internet. We all use the internet, but there's some dark sides to the internet too that we just all have to be aware of to help ourselves, but also help our kids navigate around. And if
Oh,
we're all aware of it and plan around it, then we're good and we can use the internet.
right.
We
That's
can
right.
use AI. Yeah,
That's so good. Okay, so what about parents who are already using AI and they want to learn more and go deeper? Do you have any recommendations for them?
absolutely. So if you're already using ChatGPT and you got a bunch of different chats going on in there, usually the next recommendation I make, one, you're probably running into your limit a lot and you probably need to upgrade to the $20 a month. So if you're running into your limit all the time, it's probably just worth the $20. It's worth it for just because of the amount of time it saves you and figuring things out. But the one feature that I usually tell, I'd say advanced beginners starting to bump up into intermediate are these little folders called projects on ChatGPT. And it's funny, I talked about this in my talk in social media marketing world. But you can organize those folders into different parts of your life. So I have all kinds of folders. I have one for home, I have one for faith, I have one for my kids, I have one for homeschool. Um, and you make these little folders, and it's nice because within these little folders, you have all your chats related to that topic contained, and it's easier to find that way. But it's more than that because it's essentially telling ChatGPT these things are together. So
Mhm.
when I'm having conversations in here, I want you to pay extra attention to the other conversations I've had in here, so it can keep kind of more of the context at the surface. It'll prioritize those and help you navigate it, so you don't have to repeat yourself so often. You can also give it instructions of all the basic things it should know every single time. So, for example, for homeschool, you might give it some of your preferences, the curriculum that you use, the children that you have, and the ages and the things that they're studying, maybe some of the things that they're good at, maybe some of the things that they're struggling with. So, if you load some of those basic details in the instructions, then it'll always remember those. And AI becomes so much more about giving it just the right amount of information, not too much, not too little, just what it needs to know. Just like if you talk to any good friend who is an expert on anything, like they're going to ask you a certain amount of questions before they give you advice. As everybody listening now has a thing that they're probably really good at. And if you get a beginner question, you're probably going to be like, well, like if someone's talking about baking, right? And they're like, how do I bake something really good? Well, that's a really general question. Be like, well, like, are you looking for a dinner dish? Or are you looking for a dessert dish? Like, tell me something. Okay, you're looking for a dessert dish. Do you like more on the fruity side? Or are we talking about like chocolate, vanilla? Like, okay. And we talking pie here? Like, so like there's a bunch of different questions you get into to give it. So you have to give it that you have to anticipate what those questions can be, or you could just ask it. Like, hey, I'm starting a folder uh about homeschool. Here's some basic information. You already have access to the conversations we've had before in this account. Ask me questions that we can then use as basic context to drive all future conversations about this. It'll ask you the questions, you give it the answers, and say, great, turn this into instructions for this project. You copy and paste what it gives you, put it as instructions. And I do this for all the major areas of my life. And I find that anytime I need to troubleshoot my cars, because I drive I'm like Dave Ramsey guy, so, like, I drive some well-worn Toyotas that keep going, but I gotta troubleshoot them more frequently than a new car. Uh, it knows all the basics of the car, the mileage, the make, the model, what's been done, all that stuff. I got one for my home, and it knows, like, what kind of home, slab foundation, what the AC units are like, and all the different kind of stuff, like how many rooms it has, two-story. It knows all the basic things, so when I'm troubleshooting electrical or it's something like that, then it kinda has a basic gist of that. Faith, theological convictions, church convictions, all the
Mhm.
different things, so as I'm going through it, it's not like throwing out random Christian stuff. And it's
Right.
actually pretty good with dealing with the Bible, and general faith questions. Always bring what you learn into community, if you're doing topics of faith. It's really good at, bringing contexts to the Bible, but again, because of the tendency for it to be a confirmation bias machine, if you have an angle, it's gonna go with you on some crazy
Right.
angle. Gotta bring that into community and bring pastors and other friends with you. I do. I done it
Yeah.
recently. I have a chat thread with some of my friends, my theologically inclined friends. I'm like, "Hey, what do we think about this?" And they're like, "No, that's not it." I'm like, "Okay." But you need friends like that to tell you before you go
Right.
off on the deep end and build some weird theology, you and ChatGPT. You
Right.
can do
Oh
that.
my goodness.
Yeah.
You can train AI to challenge you. It
Yes.
doesn't always have to agree, but that is the way that and it's very affirming. It will tell you, "Dan, you're thinking about that right. That's great insight." It just
Mhm.
I think when we're raising kids and teens especially, they need to be aware because they're more prone. Like, I am a grandmother, and I still like, "Oh, ChatGPT told me I did a good job thinking that thing through?" And I need to not let it, impact me. I need to still have critical thinking and look at it objectively. And so but it does I like that you've shared that about the bias because it's definitely something to be aware of. Those are fantastic examples. I think this will be really encouraging to people as they listen, just to because I think once you get one idea, then you're like, "Oh, here's another,"
Yep.
I can picture it over here and over here. I love projects in both Claude and ChatGPT. I have a bunch.
Yep. Have you
Okay,
started
so
using Codex yet? That would be
no,
like
I have
advanced level
not.
stuff. It's more it's a little bit more set up and thinking, but it's definitely like the next level up. If you have anybody listening there's like, "Yeah, I've been doing projects for 6 months or more now."
Yeah,
Check out Codex. That's
okay.
definitely the next level. It's called Code, but, like, don't think about it as code at all. Just use it like ChatGPT. It's just
Really?
way better.
Okay, well, what can it do for you? Like, what's the benefit? What can it do?
So I'm usually thinking about it from a work context, but even now, I was just using it for a personal thing. So one, you're pretty much forced to use like where you have projects in ChatGPT, there's projects in Codex and you have to work within a project. So you can't have random conversations happening out unless you create a project called like random stuff and then you just throw it in there. So you have to have a project and context for that project for starters. And the cool thing is the project is just a folder on your computer somewhere.
Okay,
Okay. So whatever's in that project, it can find and it can access, whether it's images or text files. And in ChatGPT, they took this feature away, which I was like, luckily I use Codex most of the time now, but Codex is just a separate web app too. Oh, not a web app. It's a desktop app you can install on your computer, right? So it
okay,
runs on your computer. Um, and you work from project folders that are literally just in your documents folder or even on your desktop. It doesn't matter. You just tell it where the folder is, and that's the name of the project is the folder title. The cool thing is you can build context in there as you go. So, like for work, I have a bunch of folders in there with all the different contexts for different parts of the work or the campaigns that I'm working on for marketing. And every time I ask it a new question, it'll be like, hey, like we're doing a new campaign. Go and copy this campaign folder for starters, and then we'll recraft it for this. And I don't have to give it the context because it already has access to the folder. The biggest difference is that Codex is more proactive than ChatGPT, and it has
okay.
access to more information than ChatGPT because it's whatever's in that folder. It will even leave little breadcrumb notes for itself the next time it goes through things. and
Really?
you can expect it to remember it better. Be like, hey, I want to create a process that every time I say run this play, this playbook thing, whatever it is, go and every time I say that, I want you to go to this folder within the folder, find this file, and it's going to show you to do that thing step by step. And so you don't have to like, I don't even create instructions. It creates all the instructions for me now. Cause I'm like, hey, we need to process. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. Go ahead and make it. It makes it, we run it.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, that was close, but do this a little bit more, this one a little bit less, update the process doc, and it'll go and update the process doc. So it's more proactive in how it goes and looks for the context within that folder and can remember things much better because it'll just leave notes for itself.
Sure.
The other thing it can do, and this again, this feels more advanced, but it's not really that hard, is it can code, which means functionally you can kind of have it do anything. Like if you're coming up with ideas, you're like, oh, I'd like to post these in social. In ChatGPT, you're going to have to copy and paste it into LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you want. But with this tool, I could be like, hey, I have this tool called High Level that I already use, and it has a social scheduling tool. And I know High Level has this thing called an API, which is just an acronym that says like, if you know how to code, you can access this tool from the code. But only developers could do that, but ChatGPT Codex can too. And it can write a little bit of code so that every time I say, hey, I like it, schedule that for Sunday, it's already written the code to access High Level. I don't have to wait for it to launch an integration. I mean, it has an integration, but you can build your own and have it access all the parts of the app. And then it'll just schedule it for me on High Level now. I don't have to go to a different app. I don't have to create an integration. It just writes the code. It's like, oh, go into High Level and get me this thing. And then you get it the token or whatever so that it knows how to create a secure connection. And then it just goes for it. So if you're in a business world where you're like trying to get apps to talk to each other, well, if you use Codex, it can. You can just
That's
create the
incredible.
connections there, and it can just hold on to the code locally there in that one folder and get work done. It's just cool. It's really a super app. It's really fun.
I guess. I think I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, okay, one security question on that, because I've heard a little bit about this as
Mhm.
far as it has access to a folder on your computer, not your
Mhm.
whole computer, not
Yep.
everything, correct?
You
It's
can give it
limited.
access to your whole
You
computer.
can.
I don't recommend it if it's
No.
your main computer. There are many people who are buying separate computers so they can give it access to the full computer.
Oh, that's
And
smart.
that's kinda cool. They'll have it, like, setting as a separate one, they could see the monitor, and then they could just delegate to it and know if it, like, screws everything up, it's just limited to that one computer, right?
Smart.
Um, but otherwise, I find that it's pretty adequate. Just give it access to the folder. It doesn't need access to everything, and you
Yeah.
can give it access to multiple folders. Again, each folder is a project. So I have a folder dedicated to nothing but my podcast and my personal brand. I have a folder dedicated to Trim Healthy Mama, and the 2 never overlap, and I don't
Yeah.
want them to,
No,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah, so
Interesting. Gosh, that's
it's
thank
cool.
you for sharing that. It was an unexpected question, little rabbit
Yeah.
trail. So thinking about teens, what are some productive ways that teens can use AI?
I think
Especially
the
ways that strengthen learning. We don't
Yeah.
want them bypassing the learning and the thinking, but what are some productive ways that teens, especially older teens, might be able to use AI?
Mhm. Now, I have an educational philosophy that aligns more with like what they call constructivism,
Okay.
which is a fancy, fancy word of saying like self-derived knowledge usually is stronger and stickier.
Yeah.
So that's why if you're curious about a topic and that curiosity drives you through the learning this new thing, like that's the ultimate form of learning. It's better than being taught anything unless you're being taught it because you showed up and you're watching it and learning it yourself. So what I find I like giving my kids to do is creative projects. So what do you want to make? What do you want to write? And I don't AI can facilitate all kinds of creative projects. Like my son, we just joined Scouts and I'm using it. Of course, I have a Scout project now where I'm trying to learn all that stuff. But my son's probably going to have to come up with a workout plan for one of the badges soon. Soon I'm gonna tell him like, "Oh, like have chat." He's coming up with the first draft. It's probably gonna suck because he's never thought about coming up with a workout plan, but it's a starting point. So I'm having him start with pen and paper. He's gonna come up Monday. We're gonna do this Tuesday. It'll probably be bad. And I'm like, great. Why don't you have ChatGPT work with you and fleshing that out and come back to me again? Again, he's motivated to do this project because he's very motivated by the ranks and going moving up through it. It's a great fit for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But now he's going to start learning how to use ChatGPT to help him do that. So creative projects where they're trying to create something are the best way to do it because again, it's intrinsically motivated and becomes
Yep.
the best learning. I don't recommend it. I'm not using it a lot for a lot of the traditional homeschooling. So like
Mhm.
until we're moving into a classical conversations co-op soon, but through middle school with the older 2, we were doing, My Father's World, and I was doing, like, history, science, and Bible, which the My Father's World topics, and my wife was handling, the hard subjects of English and math. I got the fun ones. Um, but I'm also doing it on my lunch break, so, I can only have so much time to
Good tag
troubleshoot
teaming.
the math and the English, which takes way longer.
It does.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that approach. That's definitely how we homeschooled as well, as far as what our kids were interested in. They learn so much more. I do too. You work with entrepreneurs, creators, and marketers every day. So, what are you seeing in the workplace that parents should be paying attention to as they prepare their children for the future?
AI is flipping a lot of things. It's so hard to know what the future holds. I literally go back and forth to whether I'm like more or less nervous about the future in the short term. And I've thought about this a lot. I was originally pushing my son to be a marketer actually like all my children. Hence I wrote a book on like how to become a marketer, like to like little kids. Um, but now I'm really focusing on maximizing the things that AI will never be able to do, again, which is values, which is experience, which is like person to person relationship building. Uh, those things will not change.
Mhm.
And that's why actually like scouts has become a big priority for me as a parent because it maximizes all those things. They really double down on values. I mean, if you're in the scouting world, there's like the scout oath and the scout law, and like the whole point of the program is actually the values, and the rank and the outdoor stuff is like literally just the scaffolding for that. But all those things are good too. So I'm trying to like
Yeah.
create breadth of experience with them. Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out ways we can create experience, have more interactions, and create a breadth of knowledge, but experiential knowledge around a ton of different things. So I feel like creating a broad base like that is going to be really helpful for the future. So
Yeah.
again, it's what AI can't do. It can't build relationships. It can't have core values. It can't uh, have gut feeling, intuition based on experience, which is the big difference between AI's expertise. Is its strong expertise, but it'll never be able to recreate what an actual expert does, having real experience. Like
Yeah.
it can create a marketing plan, but it's never had to look at look a coworker in the eyes who's looking at you to see if you're going to make next quarter's numbers, and their job's on the line if you don't do what you need to do.
Right.
It doesn't know that.
No. No,
It
that's
has
right.
no
That's
idea.
right.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I think entrepreneurship is going to be huge in this just moving forward. Okay, so if you have teenagers, but what skills and character traits do you think parents should be kind of intentionally cultivating in these teen years that will help prepare them for the world ahead of them?
This is like so general, but I think this is true for everybody. But I think parents fall into a trap of being one thing or another, like high standards and low support, or high support and low standards, which is ends up becoming high support, low standards is your helicopter parent, high standards, low support is your drill sergeant. To use love and logic language, if you're familiar with that stuff, which
Yep.
is great for young kids, but also plays into older kids as well. Like so, being setting high standards, but giving high support and strong high love and showing up. But it's like homeschool parents are usually already doing that. So it's like it's a natural thing. So what skills should you be working on? It's the ones I've already said around like relationship building and building broad skills and experiences. Uh, I mean, I don't know. It's the thing that I looked for and looked through all my experiences and all the different things that I knew about kids could get into. It's why I ended up landing on Scouts because I wanted the program to kind of give a sense of progression, but also the merit badge system created a broad skill set to operate from. So that was the conclusion I came to is one of the best things that I could get in. And they already had infrastructure for me to plug into versus making all up yourself. But it's really how to teach them how to develop a growth mindset, grit, which is like that endurance, perseverance, working towards the hard thing is the thing. Like teaching them how to set a goal, and even if they don't hit that initial goal, you end up deviating is fine. But teaching them how to do all the things they need to do to go through that again, set a high standard. And in my case, it's going to be like the Eagle Scout rank is the thing. And then it's like, okay, well, how do we do that in 3 years instead of waiting till the absolute length of time? and then working backwards, getting them motivated, but also giving a lot of support and help and affirmation and working with her, and then having the long conversations when they're like upset about something, um, it's high standards, but also high support. But high support takes a lot of time and energy. But that's I don't know. That's I guess I keep myself to high standards and try to create room for growth and stuff there too. I try to parent in such a way that my grandkids will feel it.
Yeah.
Where you set
Yeah.
rhythms in your parenting that they become the standard for your kids because your kids don't know. You repeat your parents, right? So I'm like, how do I parent in such a way that my kids replicate that so that I hit my grandkids with the same stuff,
So good.
Yeah. I'm trying
Yes.
to think a couple generations down the line. How do you parent in such a way that they're essentially being affected by the way you parented?
That is gold. Okay, so closing question. If you had leave homeschool parents with one more piece of advice about navigating AI wisely, what would it be?
I think for most homeschool parents, they probably just need to start using it, and I would start using it to tackle some of your more difficult situations that you're running into. If you don't have the app, download it, try it. What are the 3 biggest problems you're running into with homeschooling right now or with the kids? And it could be for like, it could be like, my biggest problem is this one kid, you know, like that's the problem. Whatever that problem is, like take one of them, run it into Chat GPT. Don't do it alone. Like talk to people about what you're thinking about in there and then just give it the context. There's a little dictate button where you can just talk to it. It doesn't have to be the most coherent thing. It can figure it out and just talk through it, hit enter, and then just go back and forth and see what kinds of new possibilities are there for you. Because if there's one thing that I love about AI, and there's of course, a lot of dark side and future problems that'll come from it, is that I just don't get stuck anymore, or I rarely get stuck for lack of what to do or options to have. There's plenty of options, and then it's just about taking the next step. So I think that's the biggest thing is pick 3 major problems you're running into and just give it the context and then just look for options with AI. Specifically, I highly recommend ChatGPT.
That's so
Claude's
good.
great too, but I like Chat's just a general better overall tool. So I just recommend everybody start there.
Yep, it's brilliant. Dan, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been really helpful. I think parents are going to glean a lot of wisdom and practical ideas from this. And so, where can people find you?
Well, of course, AI driven marketer. Just search AI marketing on any of the podcast apps, and my AI driven marketer will pop up. And oddly enough, I'm like hosting the Trim Healthy Mama podcast more and more if you want to learn about healthy nutrition.
That's awesome.
I've been on that podcast too. So, and if you're interested in the more business side, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/digital marketing Dan. I'm on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. I'll include whatever links you want in the show notes. And so I want to thank our listeners for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, like and subscribe, and all of the things. And we'll see you next time.